Briggs 401. How likely do you think it is that Deshaun Watson ends up in New England after this season? Remember, Chris, there were some odds that were published a week or two ago, and they were one of the offshore sites, and we stay away from naming those because they're technically illegal, and there's legalized gambling now in the NFL. I haven't seen a legitimate sports book with these odds, but the idea that Watson was the favorite at like plus 300 to be the Patriots quarterback week 1 of next season, on the surface, it's like, is this ridiculous? Yes, but it does feel like he's a little upset that DeAndre Hopkins is gone, and you just wonder whether he gets to the point where he's had enough of Bill O'Brien and he makes a power play to get out of Houston. And if he would want to go anywhere else, why wouldn't he want to go to New England?
Well, I mean, yeah, I hear that. Now, listen, again, we know New England right now seems to be all in with Jarrett Stidham, and they just want to see where that goes. Deshaun Watson, do I think he would fit the New England way and fit up there? Yes. And, of course, he's had a little bit of a precursor with that with Bill O'Brien because he tries to run things that way as well. But I think ultimately, again, this is where Houston, they got to gauge how the season goes next year a little bit. They got to be aware of what's going on in New England. I would be scared of anybody stealing Deshaun Watson and that we've upset him to where, yes, you might have to get through the halfway through the year next year and go, oh, wait, New England's not playing well. Stidham's not the guy of the future. And I would be scared as hell that they steal Deshaun Watson or anything like that. I would think that Deshaun Watson new contract needs to come now. You don't let a Deshaun Watson ever hit free agency, just like Patrick Mahomes. This is a once-in-a-generation type talent. He is a superstar. And you are going to be in the playoff conversation for the next 10 years because this guy can make it happen no matter who's around him. And you just don't let this guy walk out the door.
And look, here's the other thing to realize, because people assume that given the structure of the NFL, if you want to keep a player against his wishes, you can keep that player indefinitely. Here's how it works. For a player like Deshaun Watson, first-round pick, you have the fifth-year option. So you can, at a minimum, keep him for 5 years. You can tag him once, tag him twice at a 20% increase over the first-year tag. The third time, it's a 44% increase. It becomes ridiculously expensive, especially if you use the exclusive tag like the Cowboys did with Dak Prescott. If a player is determined to get out of a given city, he has to put in at most 7 years before he can walk. If you're not a first-round pick, you can get out in 6 years like Kirk Cousins did in Washington. But if Deshaun Watson wants out of Houston, he can get out. And here's the other thing, too. You don't even have to put in the full 7 years. What if all of a sudden you say to the team, I just don't want to be here anymore, and I'll do the bare minimum. I'll do what's required of me contractually. I'll show up for the mandatory minicamp. I'll show up for training camp. But I'm not doing anything else. I'm not coming to any of the OTAs. I'm not going to be involved in the offseason program. I'm not going to stay early or show up early and stay late. I'm not going to work on my off day. Don't bother calling me up and talking to me about the game plan. I'm just an employee like everyone else on the team. I'm not going to be a quasi-member of management because I don't want to be here anymore. I don't know how you can be effective as a modern-day NFL team without a quarterback who isn't all in. We haven't seen that play out yet. But I think if a team senses that the relationship is moving in that direction, that's the time to get value for him. Because one of these days, one of these quarterbacks is going to say, I just work here. I'm not here to do anything more than what you're paying me to do, and I'm not going to be this member of management who sets the example for the rest of my teammates.
Yeah, well, that's dangerous. You're right. And the organization is not going to go on the upward trend if the quarterback is that way. So it's a very real aspect you're bringing up. Now, if it did come to that, that's when the Houston Texans need to go, okay, that's fine. But this can't get released to the public. If we hear one inkling in the public, the media, anything like that, then we hear one inkling that, oh, you're not happy here, Deshaun Watson doesn't really want to play here, and now it hurts our trade value as an organization, we don't care. We'll ruin your career. I mean, that's what teams would have to do in that instance pretty much, because, again, what happens more times than not with these type of players, when we know there's a disgruntled player and he's not going to play, it ends up hurting the organization because they lose their trade value because everyone goes, well, he's not going to play for you anyways. He's not going to be there. So don't you want to get something for him? And then that other team that's a part of it has a leg up in the trade conversation. So that's where it gets dicey for the organizations. And if it does come to that, which I don't expect it to, they got to be able to protect themselves that way too.
Look at what they did with DeAndre Hopkins. They moved on from him before the storm arrived, before it became obvious he wanted that $22 million contract or thereabouts. And would they do that
Right.
with Deshaun Watson? So, and we talked yesterday about whether or not either side of the DeAndre Hopkins-David Johnson trade may be hoping that there's a failed physical so the trade falls apart. From Houston's perspective, you just wonder if Deshaun Watson has said enough things behind the scenes that would maybe make the Texans think twice about DeAndre Hopkins leaving and think twice about paying DeAndre Hopkins what he wants. But I don't think it's come to that. I don't think either side wants that deal to fall apart. I don't think either side is looking for a way to get out of that deal. But Deshaun Watson seemingly not happy about DeAndre Hopkins being gone.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.